there's like a lag. Kind of, I think between here and LinkedIn, I think it's like a couple of seconds lag. But we can start. So, Hamad, welcome to Powerful Conversation. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so thrilled to kick 2025 with you. This is going to be epic, and it's going to be the like a grand opening for our 2025. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone who's joining us today. I'm so happy that you decided to join us. I promise you this is going to be really, really good session. Just to start, before we let Mohammed tell us about himself and his journey and all of that, couple of things that I want to share with you. Last year, we kicked off this initiative. We put these lives together. We had an amazing lineup of guests, 10 sessions that were really, really eye-opening. I got really, really amazing feedback from a lot of people. So I'm so excited to kick 2025. And we have so much different things today to help people land their dream job, to help people shift career, to help people grow within the company where they are. So we have a lot of things going on. The first thing that we have is we have a page now that we share a lot of tips and tricks about finding a job, and we also share a lot of opportunities that you guys can actually apply for. That's number one. Number two, we're going to go the live, and this year we have more amazing lineup, and we're going to double down on the amazing Sudanese talents who are all over the world and who are doing great work where they are. And the reason is we're doubling down on the Sudanese. We want to show people that if you do it right, if you have the right mentor, if you have the right attitude, you can definitely, the sky's the limit. And I think Mohammed today will tell you a lot about his journey and what's he been doing. The last thing I want to touch base on is we are also kicking off a monthly series of group mentorship where we have only limited seats, 25, and every 25 goes with us for like 3 sessions. And the idea is there will be me and another 2 coaches. And the idea is to provide a session where you can immediately ask questions and be mentored on the best things that you do. So we have a lot of things to do. So follow us, follow the page, and you will get updated with all. That's enough of me. Now we're going to shift to Mohammed. Mohammed, welcome again. Let's start with you telling people who you are, what you've been doing, and what you're going to tell us today.
Thank you so much, Razan. First of all, I just want to say Eid Mubarak to everyone on the call. Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us. I'm happy to be part of the session at the beginning of 2025. Inshallah, this is going to be a great year for us and for everyone. And inshallah, a lot of people will be able to stay and reflect on this conversation today, Razan. And we take out a lot of, I would call them like nuggets, right? Of things that can be applicable, things that we want to share that relate to obviously our community and people who are definitely interested to work out the whole aspect of moving to a new country like the UAE, or if they've resided in any country in the GCC. How does it work? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the areas that we want to open their eyes and address and pay attention to? Right? So, inshallah, we're able to share a lot of these insights. And most importantly, we just
Mohammed,
want
I think we have an issue with the voice, with the sound. Your voice is not very clear.
Okay. Let me just see if I can do something about it. Is this better or?
It is better, and if you can. Okay, now I can hear myself.
Okay, let me just use my headset. Then just give me a
No
second.
worries. Yeah, take your time. We're here.
Hello, can you hear me now? Is this better or?
It's better, it's clear, but very low. And I can hear myself.
Hello, hello. Is this better?
Yes, we are back. Really better.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
All right. So sorry, Razan, where did you lose me? So I was just saying that inshallah, hopefully we are in the session today. We're going to speak about a lot of valuable things, people that can take from this discussion, and focus on areas that we can address as some challenges, some things to do, right, and some in terms of just preparation. And we understand that a lot of our people in our community have moved to new countries, and they're trying to cope in right with these with the employment space, and inshallah help them to be able to do something about it.
Amazing. So, Mohammed, let's start with you telling people who you are, what you do, and how did you get to where you are today?
Perfect. So my name is Mohammed. Obviously, I'm born and raised here in UAE. As soon as I graduated from college, I joined the field of HR. So I've been an HR professional for the last 12 years now. And at the moment, I work at a company called Avanade, which is a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. So this company basically works in the space of consulting and technology, right? So anything Microsoft related is the space that we work in, right? I lead the team of HR and talent acquisition for our people. So anything related to our people, anything related to the talent agenda is in my domain, right? And alhamdulillah, I feel like I've had the experience to work in different countries across the Middle East. And now I feel like I'm in a space where I really want to share some of my experience and expertise in this field to make it as relevant to the people that are on this call, inshallah, and we're able to help obviously those who are in need of such insights, right? So today is going to be about talent insights.
Mohammed, people are telling me your voice is echoing. People are telling me on the chat that your voice is echoing.
Let me see.
Do you want to drop and join again? Maybe we try that.
Let's try that. Yeah. Okay.
Guys, he's trying to fix it. Let me know if it's fixed because it does not echo for me. Happy to see everyone here today. So excited to have you. Despite the tech issues, I am confident that this is going to be a really great session. I'm going to share the link to the page, to the mentorship sessions if you want to register, and also to last year sessions if you want to go back and watch some of them. I promise you they were epic. So until Mohammed joined, I can see we have a lot of people. Can you guys tell us where are you joining us today? Are you in Dubai? Are you in Saudi? Are you in Qatar? In Egypt? Where are you today? Where are you joining us from? Okay, Mohammed is back.
All right. Is this better?
Yes,
Inshallah,
yes,
hopefully this has been sorted.
for me, it's really good. Guys, can you tell us on the chat if Muhammad's voice now is great? Muhammad, let's go.
All right, let's go.
Let's go back with the introduction, maybe. Sorry, again, just make sure that everyone had heard it clearly.
Sure, fantastic. All right, so no problem. I'll at any point in time, if you still feel like there is any echoes or sound, please let me know. So basically, I'm an HR professional who's been in the field for almost 12 years now, right? I've worked in various companies, multinationals, and in different industries as well, right? At the moment, I work with a company which is Avanade. Avanade is a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. And what I do is that I lead HR and talent acquisition for our I manage all the talent aspects and the talent agenda for our people. And inshallah, today I'm able to share some experience and some expertise as well into particularly the UAE and the GCC areas where we feel like a lot of people are moving into these countries from obviously post the war, and inshallah we're able to help and assist them with some questions as well and some of the challenges, and be able to share some of the knowledge in this aspect.
Amazing. So today we're going to be touching on 3 areas. The first area that we're going to talk about, it's going to be the acing a job interview. We're also going to talk about how do you build a personal brand in the workplace, whether you have a team or you don't have a team, whether you be an experienced person or just a fresh graduate. And we will wrap up with talking about leadership. This is a buzzword that everyone talks about. So we're going to talk about leadership. We're also going to talk about how to lead, whether you have a team or you don't have a team. So we got a lot on the on our plate today to talk about. So Muhammad, we're going to start with the interviews. It's intimidating. It's scary. So let's start with the first question. How do recruiter usually, what is the first thing that recruiters or people who are doing interview notice on a candidate?
Perfect. No, I think that's a great question, right? And a great segue into our discussion. So the first thing I think which is extremely important for recruiters is that really first impressions matter. Right? So during an interview, the recruiters are able to notice the body language, the confidence of the candidate, and the communication skills, right? And sometimes it takes just a few seconds. Right? So I think that's the first thing that the person can notice right away, right? From the get-go. The second thing is the professionalism, right? So this means whatever the person is wearing, the grooming, most importantly, obviously, the punctuality, right? So being there on time for the interview is extremely important. Right? So that's being there, being present.
My boss used to say 15 minutes. My boss used to say on time is late. You need to be 15 minutes early.
You need to be 100%. So 15 minutes, right? And you need to anticipate as well, like for people who are new, they're driving or they're using public transport. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's, traffic. Sometimes there's issue with parking. You're going to a new place, you don't know how to park and so on. But you need to anticipate and be there really on time. And as you said, on time is definitely at least 15 minutes before, right? So that's very important. I would say the last thing that we usually, the recruiters notice is the energy and the attitude, right? So a lot of people, just keep in mind that these recruiters interview a lot of people, right? So they can assess really a positive attitude, and they can also attest the energy. If someone is very enthusiastic, right, about the position, the job, what they've done, they can really make a very strong impact, right? And I remember also, Razan, I was speaking with someone maybe a couple of days ago. And this person called me for something that they wanted to ask me about, like a specific topic, right? And I really remembered that I actually interviewed them back in 2017.
Wow.
And immediately, just from the voice and from the name, right, I just realized that, okay, I remember that person because they really made a very strong impact. right? So I remember this person, for example, this particular case was, mashallah, very well knowledgeable about his role. It knew a lot about the company, right? Which was very, very, very important, right? Because it just showed that the person was fully prepared. And lastly, as well, the person came for a role which was mainly for an English-speaking role, and he's not an Arabic national. And he did showcase somehow during the interview that he speaks Arabic fluently, right? So I think that definitely for me it created a strong impact. And the lasting memory, right, about this how the interview went. So I hope this answered your question, Reza.
It did, but I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
A lot of interviews now are happening online,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So on face-to-face, it's like there's a lot you can, like, I think the connection is easier. How do you make that impression when you're doing it online as well?
So I think it follows the same steps, Razan, right? So because it's also, like when you're in an interview, you're in a space with one person, right? So definitely the aspect of energy and attitude can come off the screen, right? The professionalism as well, making sure, for example, I think here, instead of the location and being there on the exact location on time, right, or earlier as well, it's important that you check and make sure, like, you have a solid connection. You make sure, like, you have a quiet room. You make sure, like, you're able to be in a space where you can clearly not have any network issues, right? So that you're able to obviously conduct a very good interview. And again,
so I think you answered my
first impression still matter.
Exactly. So like, tell me, you just told me a story about someone you interviewed in 2017, and you still remember them because they made an impression. Let's just stay in this space for like a couple of minutes. How do I make an impression? Like, yes, I came on time and I was nice, smiley. I greeted everyone from the security to the secretary. I came in, I started a small chat. How do I walk away from that interview and let the recruiter say, oh, that's an interesting person?
Yes. So fantastic. So I think this segues also into let's say the part of how to make a successful interview somehow, right? So number one,
definitely.
Definitely preparation. Right? Okay. So this is something that I always tell people. Whenever someone is going through a job, it's really always okay and normal to ask for the job description. Right? So you're going for an interview, you're going for a specific role, you know exactly what the job is about, right? And you should have a job description of the role. Based on that, you understand, you research the company, you understand the role, and you can also anticipate some common interview questions that can come based on the role, right? So somehow about your skills, about your experience, about your expertise that relates to this role. The second point is making sure, like, you're confident and you're clear. So you can communicate your answers more, in a correct manner. Avoid also over-explaining things. Right? Sometimes over-explaining can confuse the person who's asking the questions. Right? And I think this, again, we come back to the most important, inshallah, the most important nugget that in this session I want everyone to take is the storytelling part. So, which is about using the right technique to answer the questions. So sometimes, whenever we're in interviews, we ask questions, and mainly they're usually behavioral questions. So the technique that I always recommend everyone to ask is called the STAR technique, which is an acronym which stands for situation, action, task, and result. Right? So the STAR technique. So in
the
this
starting game.
particular, I can
So
just share a
in
quick
this
example.
particular,
Right?
I can just
So
share a
for
quick
example,
example.
you're
Yes.
going for a
For
sales
example,
role,
you're going for a sales role,
right? And you're asked a question about like
right?
what
And you're asked a
kind of
question
achievement
about
you've
like
had in the
what
last
kind
3
of
or 6
achievement
months.
you've had in the last 3 or 6
Right?
months.
So very clearly, you
So very
basically
clearly,
describe the situation.
you
So
basically
I'd
describe
say
the situation.
in my
So
case
I'd say
that
in my case
in
that
a sales role in the last 3
in a
months, for
sales role
example,
in
I
the last 3 months,
overachieved
for
my
example, I
target
overachieved
by
my target
120%.
by 120%.
Okay, and you describe the
Okay,
situation that you
and you
achieved
describe the
the
situation
target.
that you achieved
The
the
task
target.
was, and you
The task
clarified the
was,
task, and you
and you
mentioned that you
clarified
were
the
given
task,
a
and
target
you
of,
mentioned
let's
that
say,
you were
$5
given a
million
target of,
or
let's
5
say, $5 million
million,
or
for example, right?
$5 million, for
What was
example,
the
right?
action you've done?
What
Right?
was the action you've done?
So I
Right?
would say, for example, as a
So I
salesperson,
would
I
say,
was
for
able
example,
to
as a
go and
salesperson,
build
I
on
was
my
able to go
experience in business
and build on
development,
my
reach
experience
out to
in
my
business
network,
development,
be
reach
able
out
to
to my
connect to new
network,
people,
be able
right?
to connect
And
to new people,
reach out
right?
to new
And
doors,
reach
knock
out
on
to new
doors,
doors,
be like a
knock on
hunter.
doors, be like a
Right?
hunter.
And based on that, I
Right?
received a
And based
result,
on that,
which
I
was the
received
120
the result,
achievement of
which
my
was the
goals.
120 achievement of my goals.
So in that aspect, you clarify
So in that
exactly
aspect, you clarify exactly
all the situation. What
all
was your
the
task?
situation,
What was the action
what
you
was your
took? And
task,
what was
what
the
was the
result?
action you've done, and what was the result.
And in that aspect, you basically
And
make
in
the
that aspect,
you
you
make the
basically
interview
make
really successful,
you
right?
make
And
the
you make
interview
it
really
easy
successful, right?
also
And
for
you
the
make it
interviewer
easy
to
also
ask you
for the
questions and be
interviewer
able to
to
get
ask
the
you
answers
questions
in a
and
very
be able
clear
to
manner.
get the answers in a very clear manner.
So we need to prep very well.
Yes.
We need to make sure that we tell a story and we follow the STAR technique. And
Yes.
I wanna stay on the preparation piece, Hamad. How do like definitely get the job description and go through the job description. What happens when, other than that, what can I do? That's number one. Also, what happens when I do not meet all the person specification on that job description? What if
Okay.
I am not, like, I don't have that much experience? How do I prep
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a very good question, right? So I think number one, in terms of
That's a very good
preparation,
question, right?
Razan, it's
I
very
think number
important to
one in terms
research
of
the company,
preparation, Razan, it's very important to research the company.
right?
Okay.
So a lot of companies now,
So
if
a
we
lot of
just talk
companies
about
now,
technology, for example, right?
if we just talk about
Someone
technology,
is
for
going to
example,
a
right?
role which is in a
Someone
technology
is going
company,
to a role
so they
which
can
is in a
research about the
technology
company,
company,
right? They
so they
can
can
know
research
exactly what
about the
they've done in
company,
the
right?
last maybe
They can
6
know
months,
exactly
one
what they've
year,
done in the last
right?
maybe 6
Any
months, 1
visions
year,
they have,
right?
any
Any
missions,
visions they have, any
mission
missions,
statement, for example,
uh,
right?
mission
It just
statement,
shows
for
like
example,
how the
right?
person have prepared
It
and
just
done
shows
the
like how the
extra
person
mile
have prepared and
to know
done
about the
the
company,
extra mile to know
right?
about the company,
Then now the second part,
right?
Razan, about your question,
Then now
which
the
is
second
about
part
if I
is
don't have
about your question, which is
most of
about
the,
if
let's say,
I
the
don't have
skills that are,
most of the,
or
let's
the
say, the skills
expertise,
that
let's say,
are,
which are in the
or
job
the
description.
expertise, let's say, which are in the job
Okay.
description.
So in this part, you just
Okay.
have to show
So in
your
this part,
value,
you just have to show your
right?
value.
So
Okay.
it's not like you're coming to the
So it's
role
not like
just
you're
to
coming
take the
to
role.
the role just
You
to
know,
take the
you're
role.
coming to really
You know,
bring
you're
your
coming to
experience,
really
whatever the
bring your
experience is,
experience, whatever the
your
experience is,
background, right?
your
And
background, right?
really add something to the table to
And
that
really
company,
add
so that
something
they
to the table to that
really
company, so that
consider
they
you
really
versus all the
consider
other
you
people who are also
versus all
considered
the
to
other
this
people
role,
who are also considered to this role.
right? So in this aspect,
So
for example,
I have
So in this aspect,
yeah,
for
go ahead.
example, and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Give us the example. We'll ask later.
Yeah. So example, for example, right? So a lot of people
Example, for
have,
example, right? So a lot of
let's
people
say,
have,
targets to do,
let's say, targets to do.
right? But many times in this
But many
delivering these
times in
targets,
this
they are faced with
delivering these
challenges that
targets, they are faced
really,
with challenges that
makes it a little
really,
bit difficult, for
makes
example,
it a little bit
to
difficult, for
attain the
example,
target. So, for
to
example,
attain the target. So, for example,
someone needs to do a project,
someone
but
needs
it
to do a
doesn't.
project.
It can be some. It can. This project can only be done with the help of other people involved, right? So in this aspect, you can highlight that you have very good stakeholder management, and you're able to work with teams, right, or across teams or cross-functional teams, to be able to basically, deliver a good result and basically get a result out of that, right? So this, showcase that the value, the specific skill that you have, and sometimes, this actually, makes it just memorable for the interviewer or the recruiter, to remember, the kind of value that you would add to this particular role, even if you don't have the right experience for it.
I wanna go a little bit here. So men are usually more comfortable going for the role that they don't have much of experience for. They're very brave and they just go for it. Girls don't. Most of girls, they say, oh no, they are asking for 7 years experience. I don't know how to do this system. Oh, I'm not going to apply for this. Do
Yeah.
you say to people, even some guys, I think they also hesitate. Do
Yeah.
you say to people who have the mentality, they have the base knowledge, but they don't have that everything on that person's specification or
Yes.
requirement on the job?
Yeah. So definitely. So I think this is a very good question, Razan. So I think here, particularly, fresh graduates or people who just feel like, they want to showcase their potential without maybe just having that relevant work experience, right? So I think in this aspect, very important, Razan, to highlight your transferable skills, right? Leadership could be an example, right? Any role that you've had in any past, or an internship, for example, right, that you've done, or part-time work, or any extracurricular activities, volunteering, anything that has showcased your leadership, you can specify that, can showcase, your teamwork, your problem solving. It can be also for someone, for example, a fresh grad, it can be a university project or any extracurricular activity, right, that the person has been involved, right? So just somehow highlighting the transferable skills, and also showing that this person, him or her, have the ability to learn, right? So I think this is the most important, because honestly, a lot of us, people hiring for this role, we know that at many times, learning is very important, and learning in the job is even more important, right? So if the person is able to learn and be able to cope, right, with the challenges, with the pressure, uh, you can just demonstrate that, right? Giving again, some examples and so on that has happened for him or her, right, in any particular university project, past experience, part-time work, right? So and that is always relevant, right? And I think recruiters really appreciate honesty, right? So even if you don't have a specific skill in this particular, you can just say that, for example, I don't have a lot of experience in this particular thing, but I'm willing to learn and do so and so.
Let's stay here just in this space for more time, because a lot of people think, especially Sudanese people who now been like displaced or outside of the country because of the war
Mm,
situation, they are thinking, oh, I don't have GCC experience. And they hear
mm,
this a lot from recruiter.
mm,
This is Microsoft, oh, this is Facebook, oh, this is Amazon. I don't have
mm.
experience. I can't apply for this job. Or they
Yes,
feel
yes,
intimidated by the name or whatever.
yeah.
What do you say to those people?
So let me here, maybe just take a step back, Razan, and I really want to see. This is based on my experience, my experience, the challenges I've seen, right, for all our Sudanese professionals, the people who are seeking jobs in the UAE and GCC. خلاص. And
I
this is
love that.
just on
Let's go.
this is this is just my personal feeling, right? So I understand, first of all, the number one, or let's say the first challenge, is other than employment, actually before employment, is the whole aspect of the visa and the visa situation, right? So many of the people who've arrived here, right? So I just want to talk about this a little bit in in just in a small brief detail, so that I can go to the next challenges that I've seen. So many arrived on visit visas, right? And somehow, obviously are looking for employment and are looking for employment visas, so that like stability, right? So I think number one, they're looking for stability. So stability in terms of being able to stay in UAE or any other GCC country, right? So that's, I think, is the number one challenge that I've seen facing our Sudanese people. The second thing is actually the recognition of the qualifications. فحسيت انه في a lot of our people who graduated from universities in Sudan or have some degrees or certifications somehow maybe feel like it's not easily recognized, right? And maybe that could somehow delay these job opportunities and so on. Okay. The third thing is about a little bit more about just the market competition. I mean, the UAE, for example, and GCC is a very competitive market, right? So we have highly skilled international workforce, people coming from all sorts of different backgrounds, different countries, even different continents. But I think one thing, and I think this is again an opportunity, is that Alhamdulillah, we all speak Arabic. I'm seeing a trend of on that recruiters now are actually more on the lookout for people who are Arabic speakers, Arabic and English, right? So this will take me to the next part, is the language barrier, right? While we all speak obviously Arabic fluently, English, sometimes the fluency in English can sometimes be a limitation, right? In some corporate roles. So definitely, I think this is a challenge that I'm seeing. Two more points, and just in terms of the challenges that I see, is also somehow networking gaps, right? So, I mean, all of the people here have not yet established, for example, professional networks, which makes it a little bit difficult to assess, and access like some opportunities or jobs, or maybe not, not having the right information about the right job portals for which jobs, right, and so on and so forth. And then the last part, to some extent, there is also maybe a brief or some little understanding about the salary expectation and the market rates, right? And I think this particularly, Razan, is just between or specifically in the mid to senior roles, right? So the people who are managers, for example, in some in Sudan, for example, right, and now they moved here, right? So might have some higher salary expectations, right? Really compared to the market benchmarks. But these aspects, Razan, I feel like are the main challenges I'm seeing, honestly, with the people here. And then the last one, and this is last but not least, is obviously, as you mentioned, is just not having the relevant experience in the UAE or the GCC, right? So I know a lot of people come here with vast experience, mashallah, in Sudan, in different areas, different companies, and so on. But having relevant experience in the UAE obviously is something that is important to some companies, right? Given the roles that are in demand. So I just wanted to highlight the challenges here, Razan, and I hope that was a little bit clear to the audience as well.
They are. And I think we can, I'm just now intrigued to have another session where we can just talk about these and give people advices on how to tackle this, or maybe we move this into the one of the mentoring session, because it will allow us to directly interact with people and answer questions on the same side. So if this is something, guys, you want to see, please let me know on the comments. I already added the registration to the mentoring sessions, and we can definitely dedicate one of the sessions for that. I think Muhammad will be okay to join us and help us do that. So I kind of like, you really, really very well kind of like laid down what are these sessions, but should that be like, if I don't have the relevant experience, or I never worked in the GCC, should that be a big barrier? It is an issue, but is it a big barrier, or people can still maneuver and go around?
Definitely no. I think people can really maneuver and move around, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think part of it is also ensuring that your brand, right? So and I think this is a topic that we would love to speak about as well in this session, right? Just showcasing your brand or personal brand, right? Even if you're a fresh graduate, even if you're someone who's just starting new in this market in the UAE or GCC, right? As long as you can establish that, and again, coming back to the point of establishing your value, I think that's more enough, right? Because I know that companies, more than the experience that people bring, they actually look for the person. So they want to hire, for example, in my case, they want to hire Muhammad because it's Muhammad, right? It's not because it's an HR job and this is an HR profession.
So Mohammed, let's stay here. Two pieces here. I'm a fresh graduate. A lot of Sudanese people had finished their last year of university online in the past 2 years, and I am a fresh graduate. I don't have a lot of experience. I'm coming to, maybe I never worked before. I'm coming to interview. How can I show my potential as a fresh graduate, as someone who didn't work at all? What should I do?
Fantastic. So I think here is very important that, again, for a fresh grad, so the question is, where should I start?
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's very important to
So
just
I think it's
establish
very
and
important
highlight
to just establish and
the career
highlight
growth,
the career
right?
growth,
So here
right?
coming back to the personal
So
branding,
here
right?
coming back to the
So
personal
just
branding,
building
right?
some credibility,
So just building some
right?
credibility,
Really
right?
optimizing. I think this, the
Really
perfect
optimizing.
start
I think
is with
the
LinkedIn,
perfect start is with LinkedIn,
Okay.
right? So the person should somehow optimize
person
their
should
profile,
somehow optimize their profile,
right? Sometimes also fresh grads can share really interesting insights, right? They can talk about, like, for example, if it's a technology field or construction or engineering or medicine, right? It's important to also share their insights, right? A lot of people and a lot of our, I would say the generation Z as well, right? Have a lot of insight. They have a lot of information, right? And that's a good start to share that with LinkedIn. And I'm seeing that actually across the board on LinkedIn. I'm seeing a lot of young people during college, during university, or post graduating, for example, will share some insights and talk about things that matters to them and so on, right? And also, it's good for them to engage really with industry discussions. So commenting on posts that they see, replying to certain interesting or reposting, for example, interesting articles that they see and so on, right? And then again, the type of content here that they can share. So what could be an example of it? So I think maybe lessons, right? So these, احنا at the moment in the UAE, for example, most of the fresh graduates at some point in time, they would have done an internship, or they would have worked in a project at in college or senior year, for example, right? So what kind of lessons they learned during their internships and projects, right? What kind of things that they've done? They can again, share some industry trends. They can share like insights. They can talk about like TikTok, how to optimize, how to make viral posts on TikTok or social media, right? They can also reflect on their learning experiences. So, any learning experience they had during college or a project or an internship, they can share that. And we have a lot of these summits and seminars, right, going in the UAE. Not just through the main seminars that are organized, like for example GITEX, or this week actually we have, for example, Arab Health happening in the UAE, right? So there is a lot of insights, a lot of data and information being shared about medicine, how the whole industry of medicine and health and public health as well will happen. So I'm seeing a lot of people also sharing their experiences just from being there and networking with people and getting some advice that they've got from people who've been in their positions and from their mentors. And again, I think this is a topic that is also close to us, Razan, is about mentorship, right? So we can always share these advice that we get from our mentors, right? And talk about it, post about it. But again, the importance starts really at the moment for someone to have a career and a visible personal branding. It really starts with LinkedIn, Razan. So Razan, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
We
yeah,
we're
now I
gonna
can hear you.
move to the personal branding piece, but I wanna have three questions within the async job interview. They keep coming, 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 coming. The first one is um how to address the gap in career. A lot of women take gap because they're having baby. A lot of people lose their job and they have a gap. So a lot of people have gaps in their career, or
Yeah,
sometimes shift. Someone is
yeah.
shifting from a food industry to a tech industry, or from a real estate to retail. So do we
Mm,
how do they address that in the interview in a
mm.
way that leaves the right impression?
So as I said there, Razan, احنا recruiters, myself being one, right? I always appreciate the honesty, right? So be honest and be positive about it, right? I think number one, acknowledging that there is a gap is important, right? So if for example, I'm someone who always in my career was in finance, and now I'm applying, for example, to an HR role, for example, right? I'm just giving an example here. So acknowledging that there is a gap, right? But framing it, I think, as a learning experience is a good way, right, to really just minimize this gap, right? That I have, for example, learned something in finance and was able to apply my skills, problem solving, and was able to also be someone who can speak to people. And for that, I feel like now a transition to HR puts me in the right position because I have the experience of numbers. I also am developing and learning also to build my people skills. So being positive about it and being very honest about it is also important. The second thing is also showing the growth. So if I'm moving to a new role, for example, or looking for a different role, or again, there was a stop, for example, people have stopped in gaps and so on, you can just highlight that there is, I've done during this time some certain courses. And I know a lot of people also, I'm hearing it, alhamdulillah, also from our Sudanese folks as well, who are still on the lookout for jobs. They are enrolling themselves in courses, right, via LinkedIn, just on the internet in general, right? Maybe working on personal projects as well, just helping out, and just showcasing that even that they had taken this gap, they were still building on their skills, and they were also gaining maybe new skills during this gap, right? And I think just to be on the safe side, and I think I maybe alluded to this earlier on. Uh, Maybe sometimes just over explaining things uh, could result in maybe in a negative way. So just keep it brief. You don't have to over explain and so on, right? Just focus on really what's relevant to the job.
I love the part of oversharing, because a lot of people are not really interested to
Yeah,
go into the details.
yeah,
I think owning it is something very important. I recently
yes,
had a session where I was coaching women who were taking a career gap because they were raising their kids. And there was
yes.
the first thing that we wanted to say: this is
Mm,
something that was really great. You're
yeah,
proud of it. We acknowledge it. And you, as you said, they gained a lot of experience handling a baby and juggling a house and doing a lot of stuff. And they are actually more
yeah,
stronger and more multitasking after that. So yeah, I think the
yeah.
acknowledgement. Okay,
And
another
Razan,
question
sorry,
that comes a
coming
lot.
coming
Yeah,
to this part, Razan, also like and this is
yeah.
something that I've seen yani, a lot of leaders also use. My actually my personal manager back in one of the companies I worked with had taken a gap, like a 1 year gap between roles, right? So he's highlighted it on LinkedIn. So he's put it that in that 1 year, for example, while transitioning, he had a sabbatical leave. And I think he, in a very nice way, he showcased that he was taking care of his daughter, and he was learning like new skills. He was doing like many hikes, right, in that specific country that he moved to. So so that's very being honest and also being positive about it, right?
Yeah,
I don't want people to feel
I took a break. After
mm,
17 years of working continuously, I needed a break. I took a break for
correct.
6 months. I didn't work.
Yes.
I didn't apply. I didn't do
Mm,
anything. I traveled. I spent
yes.
time with my family, and I am so proud of it. And like it's just I deserve it. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, I love that. Okay, another question on the
Mm.
interview that every most of interviews people ask them: your weaknesses. Tell me your
Yes.
top weaknesses. And here, usually, either people are not prepared or
Mm.
are over prepared. So tell
Yeah.
us what the secret here, Mohammed.
Yeah. 100%. So I think here, so I think in this particular part, very important, Razan, to really understand what's the core job function, right? So, for example, if I'm coming on, I'm being interviewed for a sales role, I cannot address my sales ability or networking ability as a weakness, right? So, what I would say here is that pick a real but non-critical weakness. So, pick something that really doesn't impact the core job that you're doing, right? So, for example, you can just show, like just show improvement, right? So you can say, for example, in sales, my particular weakness could be in no, I am over. I can come across as someone who's pushy, right? So this is not something that's very critical to the job, but actually it helps with with doing the job, because salespeople usually are tend to be pushy, right? They want you to close the deal, they want you to get things done, and they want to make us they want to make a selling, right? So and also just uh, try not to use one of these like very like vague weaknesses, like I work too hard, or like I'm a perfectionist. So I think these ones at the moment they really sound somehow fake, maybe to some extent. But just keep it real, right? Keep it real and keep it as an aspect that you're at the moment showing improvement and learning upon.
Yeah, I love that. I love the to kind of relate it to the core of the job. Okay, so this
Yes.
is my last question on the acing the interview one, which is this salary negotiation. So a question that no one wants to answer is what's your
Yeah.
salary expectation, and also
Yeah.
the negotiation part. So a lot of
Yeah.
people who've been searching for a job for a long time, and someone offered them a job, even though a certain salary, even though it's very low, they just
Yes.
don't want to go back and negotiate because they think if they negotiated, they're going to lose the opportunity.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
how do you answer that question? Number one. Number two, how do you negotiate?
Yeah, fantastic. So I think number one, I think at this stage, and this is a very important stage, right, Razan? So I think by this part, let's say when the candidate reaches this level, right, which is the offer stage, uh, this person has already displayed that he can add value, he or she can add value to this company, and this company actually wants him, right? Given that he or she has the right relevant skills, the certification, the experience, the expertise, right? So alhamdulillah, yani, people should not be intimidated of negotiating. So this is, I think, number one, right? So always I feel like you think of it as two ways. You want to reach a win-win situation. You want to reach a situation where obviously companies have certain budgets on the salaries that they propose, right, or whatever the number that is there, and also the candidates, right? They want to also ensure that they're being paid right in the market rates, right? So we understand, for example, we are easily able to get the market research data, Razan, at the moment. We have all these on LinkedIn as well, right? So we have all these companies like Hayes, many different recruitment companies are posting the salary trends. I don't know if you've stumbled upon it, but in the UAE it's very common, and also in Saudi it's also very common to share these as well, right? So people can usually use like Glassdoor, they can use Bait, they can use these salary trend. Usually they're shared by these companies, right? Like as PDF files as well, and even on WhatsApp, people are sharing it as well to just be informed on what is the market salary, for example, for the different various roles. Once, just wait until let the employer, for example, propose a number and share with you an offer, and then you're able to negotiate, right? And the justification should always just showcasing your relevant skills, that you're going to be adding value, that you feel like you address exactly what the job requires and you're the right person for this role, right? And just remember that at this point the company really wants you, right? Because they've offered you instead of anyone else, right? So you are able to negotiate, and just removing this intimidation that, oh, a company, I'm they've just offered me, can I negotiate, can I ask for more, and just see how it goes, right? So I think that's the most important part here I want to share is that just don't be intimidated, and know it's a two way process, right? So that both parties are happy, right? And also the person joins the company feeling motivated that he's being paid fairly in his job, his or hers.
So, Mohammed, you've been in the HR space for quite some times. I am sure you interviewed a lot of women, a lot of men. What's the
Yeah.
percentage of men who negotiate, and what's the percentage of women who negotiate?
So honestly,
Roughly.
it's
It's
so so I think honestly what I've seen,
what
at
I've
least
seen,
in my field,
at least in
Razan,
my field,
I've seen
Razan,
everyone negotiate,
I've seen everyone negotiate,
Okay, I
right?
love
So
that.
right?
so I've seen everyone negotiate, and
So I've
everyone
seen
feels
everyone
like they
negotiate, and
wanna
everyone feels
they
like
they wanna
they're,
basically get
they
a
wanna
higher number,
basically get a
because
higher
again coming
number.
back to
Because
justifying
again,
it as well,
coming back
right?
to justifying it, so right?
Um, and
Okay,
uh,
cool.
and just having that
Yeah,
two way
go ahead
situation.
if there is something.
No, that's it, Razan. Razan, sorry, you're on mute again. I can't hear you.
Yeah, but you got disconnected. So, okay. I don't know. I missed the last part you said.
No, I was just saying that
No, I was
that,
just
that
saying
that
that
was about it.
that was about it.
So I've seen
Okay,
people
cool.
negotiate
So
both male
people
and female.
negotiate both male and female.
Yeah, I'm looking for something you said earlier, and I think people like it. You said personal branding start with LinkedIn.
Yes.
But I want now kind of let's move to the personal branding piece.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a lot of say about personal branding when it comes to career. A lot of people think, oh, I don't have 10,000 followers, or like I'm not
Mm,
a camera person, I can be on social media.
mm.
What is personal branding when it comes to career? Like, and um, we'll dig down, but for you as a recruiter,
Yeah.
how do you look at personal branding?
Yeah, definitely. So I think so I as a recruiter, right? So from the other side, I look into it as this person who has something unique about them, right? So every one of us, right? Anyone who's on LinkedIn, right, has their a little bit of an aspect of uniqueness to them, right? So be it a skill, be it experience, be it where they graduated, where they come from, where they're working, what they've done, right? So I think this is what I see. I something unique about it. So I just want to come to something that I recall and I remember, and this was during COVID, maybe back in 2020, during COVID. So we saw a huge boom during that time, Razan, in all the companies that were basically managing deliveries, right? So the food delivery companies, the supermarkets, right, that were delivering a lot of stuff, right? So I remember someone on LinkedIn. So it was someone who's fresh, right? So and I think it was a design student, if I recall correctly. And honestly, they tagged the company. First of all, they looked at the company was hiring. I'm not sure exactly what the company, but it was one of these companies that are in delivery or in logistics, basically. And he did. It was a he. He did. He tagged them and he posted his CV in a very clever way to showcase exactly like an ordering an item on their website, right? So he used the font and he used the colors of that company and he used it in his resume and he put his name and he put all the experience that they've that he's had, and he just made it in a way that was very relevant and unique and particular to that company in a very creative way, right? And I remember immediately like this post got reposted a lot, and obviously it got very viral. And I remember it, the people started tagging the recruiter actually managing this role to see this resume and the creativity of this person. And the person, yeah, the recruiter actually responded on the same post and they said we will get with you and connect with you, and then they eventually hired him, right? So that was, I think, a beautiful story of just showcasing your personal brand. And I think that example showcased really that this person, did it in such a beautiful manner and a creative manner, right? So I think we all have this ability to do that, to show just somehow a uniqueness or a skill um, that the person him has, and just be consistent about it, right? So I think today on LinkedIn, it's important, and you would know also, Razan, that it's important to really regularly keep posting things, right, and being active on the platform, right, so that people can see your content, they can relate to it, right, and you're also engaged in discussions and different, commenting and just messaging people and professional in your field, and just really growing your personal brand, right? So this is, I think, what I can share about your particular question as well.
I love that. And I love how you are implying that LinkedIn is way more than just an application. And it's building your personal brand is not about posting your resume online, and or it's about showcasing what
Yeah.
how do you think your intellectual, your knowledge, what are you
Yeah.
up to, and kind of start a dialogue.
Yeah.
So within the company, or currently a lot of people are working, definitely they want to grow within the role where they are.
Mm.
How can I build that personal brand within the company where I work? How can I show my credibility and kind of makes everyone around me notice who I am and what I'm doing and kind of stand out within the work environment?
Yeah, so I think it all starts by just writing and sharing about it, right? So if you're in a particular industry, right, and you're in a particular company, a lot of companies, for example, will talk about what they're doing and so on, right? So I think just posting about it, talking about it, right, highlighting also the teams, for example, involved. So in that particular project, it just shows like you are active. I think being active is important, um, and engaging with the experts, right? So I think sharing relevant information, and sharing insights. I think that's very important in whatever the field is, right? So I think um, it's I take LinkedIn, Razan, as your portfolio, right? So if anyone is gonna come to you, right, then for example, try to work with you, they will ask for your portfolio, right? They want to see what you've done in the past, right? If you're like, for example, a graphic designer, or you've worked on campaigns, or you've done a clever or nice marketing campaign and so on, right? They want to see what you've done, right? So I think the way you can see it is obviously by showcase it. Sorry, is about really writing about it, sharing it, making it clear what you've done, and whatever the experience is, even for people who are, again, as we mentioned, right, fresh graduates, people who've just started their jobs, people who are in new in whatever field that they're in. I've seen people also join companies, Razan, and then start posting about the roles that are open, right? So now they're obviously also elevating their personal branding to match the company branding, right? So if people join companies, they can talk about the open positions, and reach out to their network, and be able to to build that presence, I would say, in LinkedIn. Mashallah, LinkedIn is a universe. So I think as long as you're
As
able
long as
to
you
share
can,
more and so on,
you're able
you're
to
able
share
to
more and so on, you're able
grow your light.
to grow your light.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, and I also think, like, I always worked for big companies, and a
Mm,
lot of us work for big companies, but we kind of shrink ourselves to what we do every day. We
yeah.
just go do the job and then leave. I think that's not it, and a lot we Sudanese have that notion of, I'm working hard. My manager should see that, or
Yes.
they should know I'm working hard. I don't think it's only Sudanese. A lot of people have it, but kind of like, I think it's people assume when you talk
Mm,
about your achievement as if you're bragging,
yes.
and we want to be humble. We don't want to brag.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people, Muhammad? What about
Well, also,
bragging at the
yeah.
workplace?
So definitely. So I think coming back to one of the points I mentioned in one of the questions earlier is about using the term "I work too hard." Right. I think at the moment, Razan, we want to work smart, not hard. Right. So I think that's a very important part, right? And you want to work smartly, right? So you want to, again, you're working for a company. You're committed to certain specific working hours and so on, but there is always like a limit to productivity, right? So we're human beings. There is a limit to our productivity. At that time, I think focusing on the role that you're having and you're doing, I think is very important, but also ensuring that you are also building your personal brand. You're also showcasing exactly people are seeing, and by people, I don't mean just the direct manager and the company. I think it's important to be recognized and be visible, right? That's important, right? For sure, for any person to really develop in their career, but looking beyond that, right? Looking beyond this bubble, and showcasing your qualities, your leadership, right, to the entire world. So if I'm gonna say, Razan, why keep it small when you can actually demonstrate and showcase your job to the entire world, right? Which is obviously what the platforms like LinkedIn allows you to do.
I love that. We have some questions on the chat. We're going to come to them, but I want to touch on a topic that everyone talks about, networking. Everyone
Yeah.
will give you the advice of network. And then some people say, oh, I'm an introvert. I don't like meeting new people. Someone will say, where do I meet those people? I don't know how to network. And what is networking when it comes to career, and how can people do it correctly from your point of view?
Yeah, so I think definitely Razan يعني is very important to the UAE is known worldwide, right, as a hub, right? So now, obviously, given the post-COVID era, I would say a lot of people, flock to the UAE, right, for various reasons and so on, right? And now, obviously, with what happened in Sudan as well, a lot of people are also moving here, right? So it's extremely important, really, um, to first of all, subhanallah, يعني إحنا all the people who've moved here, they somehow know someone that knows someone that knows someone who's doing, a certain thing or a certain job here, right? So I think being able to reach out, understand, I think it's always fine. And I think sometimes Razan اللي بحسه انه a lot of people have this thing that holds them back from networking, thinking that it's like asking for a favor. So and this somehow it can target the ego of I'm not saying that everyone has that, right? But some people do have that, right? They will say, oh, no, I will not ask this person, or I will not reach out to this person because I don't want to think that they're I'm asking them for a favor and so on. But I think that's just a different perception of the actual matter. We know that there's a lot of people here who have, for example, local experience. It's totally fine on LinkedIn to reach out, get some advice, seek some help in terms of just insights, because we all have similar, I would say, and relevant experiences that we can share, and it's just a matter of knowledge sharing, right? So networking, I think, is important because at the moment, for people to really understand what's going on in the UAE, integrate, right, in the region, it's important to obviously be part of it as well, right? So I think that in that aspect, networking extremely important. But there is a lot of opportunities of networking that are there in the many different fields, Razan, that happens, right, in healthcare, in education, construction, retail, hospitality, technology. So we have all these different various things happening, like GITEX, Leap, Arab Health, Food Gulf, and to name many more. Yani. They're all there, and people can go there, meet people, and so on. And this week, as I mentioned, Razan, there's Arab Health happening, and I know a lot of companies are here, obviously demonstrating all the new technologies and so on. And we know we have a lot of doctors from Sudan. We have a lot of people in the field of pharmaceuticals. We have a lot of people who are working in, medical equipments. And mashallah, we're based on the data. We have a lot of people who actually work in this field in the UAE, right? So this is a good way to go and network, meet people, meet companies, meet global companies, and just building your base and building your connections as well in the UAE, because connections are very important in this part of the world as well.
Yeah, I love that, Muhammad. And I want to say, share a personal experience. I'm a person who does networking all the time. I go to event. I sometimes travel, pay from my own pocket just to go and attend certain conference. But what I would also say is there's i- i- when you approach networking, approach it with the intention of networking, not to get something out of that person because it could be smelt.
Correct.
That's number one. That doesn't mean it's wrong to ask people for referral, for help, for
Yes.
support, but you also have to do the effort, and you also have to make it easy for that person. If I am reaching to Muhammad to ask him to refer me to a job in his company, or to pass my CV to consider me for a role, I need to first be nice. Second,
Yeah.
tell Muhammad who I am. Third, tell him the position I am looking for.
Yes.
And I would actually even go one step further and say, I will tell Muhammad, Muhammad, I know you don't know me. It could be very daunting to refer someone that you don't know. So why we don't get to connect online and you get to know me? I get a lot of messages from people. They just send me a CV and say, oh, I'm
Yeah.
looking for a job. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, am I supposed to take your CV and apply for you? Like, you,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
that also shows me the level of seriousness that you are doing. But on the contrary, I have people who is like, I saw this job on Google. I'm
Yeah.
really, my big dream is to join Google. Can you refer me to that job? And definitely yes, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you're gonna do the work, but you have to show me that you're willing to do the work. So networking is something that could save you a lot of
Yeah.
times and can land you really, really good opportunities. Hamad,
So Razan,
let's
two things.
go
Two things
to,
here. I just want to
yeah,
add two
tell
things. I
me.
want to add on this part, right? So
Yeah,
again,
I love
coming back
that.
coming
Yeah.
back to LinkedIn, because I really want to just use and leverage LinkedIn, because it's a great platform. So we all know that in LinkedIn, right? So people follow different people, right? And you are able to also follow companies. And on LinkedIn, whatever company that you follow, you can see who in your network is working there, right? So it's someone that you might know, someone that you've maybe for example, I can see people in various companies that I've went to university with, right? So I'm able to first, number one, recognize that there is someone I know in this particular company, and I know that there is a role or a job that I'm looking for, and I want to apply for, and I can use that, right? So I think this is a very easy way um, to utilize LinkedIn to be able to at least, if you know a role and you find out that you have a connection with this particular company and you have someone there, you're able to share your resume. And as you said, Razan, right, being polite about it and asking for not a favor, right, not for you to apply for them, but to at least share your resume and to the concerned recruiter or the talent acquisition member, so that they can put your resume forward. Now, very important, Razan, and this is something that I've seen now, is coming back to the point of the resume, right? So I've received so many resumes, Razan, yani, to be honest, I wouldn't even feel comfortable to share it to any recruiter, right? Just from the way, the layout of the resume. And I think that's I think step one, right? Before trying to figure out the role and applying to the different role, this is in the control of the candidate, right? This is your resume, this is your CV, this is your work, your experience, your blood, sweat, and tears, right? And you want to make it as I would say, beautiful as possible, right? And at the moment, Razan, yani, with mashallah, with all the technology that we have and all the AI tools that we have, there is a lot of like proven prompts that you can get the assistant of ChatGPT or whatever AI platform that you use to help you really put the right the right resume
Deep sea.
the right resume
using the 2025
using the
ATS standards. So we all know that when we apply to roles and so on, there is a specific systems that are being used, right, to collect the resumes and highlight keywords and so on, right? For this is very important, right? Why not leverage these resumes? And I think it's very important that we don't just keep the same resume that we've had 10 years ago and maybe just edit some part of the experience and so on, and the number, maybe the location, and just share it, right? I think we can spend some time, right, to just really fine tune the resume, craft it, and make it the most I would say in beautiful, and not very long as well, right? Because recruiters also don't have a lot of time to go over resumes that are 2 pages, 3 pages, or 4 pages, right? But something that are clear to the point, specific to that role, and showcases really your value and your experience, so that you're able to land the role. So I think, sorry, Razan, I just went on a different tangent here, but again, coming back to the
No,
resume,
actually,
it's extremely important.
on point.
extremely important.
On point. I 100% agree with you. And I think it's also, it signals a lot of things about how serious you are. Are you putting the effort to
Yes.
do that? And also remember, when someone is referring you or someone is helping you or passing the CV, they're also putting their name on the table. And they might not, if there is someone who came after you and that was actually the right person, the recruiter might not take their recommendation too. So for me, I take my recommendation very seriously. So I don't have a problem recommending someone that I don't know, because I have been in that situation as well. But I also feel more comfortable recommending people who showcasing. Like if someone came to me and I went to their LinkedIn profile and they have zero effort, I wouldn't feel very comfortable doing that. Mohammed, before we move to the leadership position questions, I have a question from Sami saying, what should we do if you what should you do if you have a generalist profile? Companies today tend to prioritize specialists, often overlooking the unique value of generalist, especially in senior role. How can I position myself effectively in such a situation?
That is a very good question, Razan. So I think as a generalist, right? So it means like you have, and I think the particular, or like let's say the technical term to it, is someone who has the breadth, right? So he has different skills for a particular role. I just want to use the example of HR. Right? So an HR professional can be a generalist who has experience in recruiting, who has experience in total rewards, for example, right? And comp and ben, let's say, compensation and benefits, HR business partnering, right? And talent acquisition, right? So different parts, right? So this generalist, I think if I'm a journalist and I'm applying to a role which is a little bit more specific, I would just highlight the specific part that I've done in that particular role that relates to that particular role and emphasize on it, and maybe be able to share more examples about it. Right. So if I, for example, if I'm applying as a journalist who have worked in HR, and I'm applying to a recruiter role, I can highlight exactly what I've done in recruitment, even if I don't have many years of experience. But at least I can just highlight it and be able to expand upon it.
But what if that's definitely a valid one. But I think Sami question more about senior level. I think, like, for example, on a senior level, sometimes people might tell you, oh, I need a specific, let's say, for example, someone is applying for a director of sales, and they would want someone who was a director of sales for 6-7 years, 12 years. But then there would be someone who had a marketing background, an operation background, and sales background. So it doesn't tick the box, but it has other experiences that are very valuable as well. How can I position myself for that senior role with having that broad experience?
So as you said, Razan, I think you said it beautifully here. It's about positioning, right? So just positioning the experience, right? That you have, for example, I know, for example, in our field, when we look for salespeople, we look into different industries. So, for example, we look into hiring, for example, a salesperson in financial services, compared to hiring someone, for example, in public services. And let's say I find someone who has the ability to do the job, for be able to connect people in the government, which is a public service, but doesn't have experience with banks and financial services, right? I'm able to be, as a hiring manager, I'm able to assess if this person will work well or not, right? And this is all about just positioning, right? The value that this person has, the relationships, and focusing really on the other aspects that can magnify his I think his worth, right, to that position. So if I take it like Razan, just think of it as a bar chart, right? So a bar chart that has like 5 elements that can fluctuate. So if one of them, sometimes the role requires you to have like an average in all these 5 elements or 5 aspects, right? So if one of them is not really to the expectation, the others should somehow complement it, right? So I hope that makes it a little bit clear.
Yeah, I think it is, and I agree with you. It's all how about you position it. Okay, so Mohammed, before we move to leadership, is there anything on the personal branding piece that you want to touch on before we move there?
No, I think we've I think we've covered the. I just want to emphasize how important LinkedIn is for showcasing your personal brand and building it, and just being consistent about it, right? Because it takes time. I just want to highlight this as well, that people shouldn't expect that just by one post or two posts or three posts they will have a personal brand, right? This is something that takes time. They need to be consistent about it, and they need to also learn about the insights that they see, right, from LinkedIn.
Agree. And there's a lot of channels on YouTube, on LinkedIn itself. There's now something called LinkedIn influencer, which is basically just focus on telling people what are the secrets and all of that. So kind of like very interesting. So if you want that space, it's definitely very rewarding. So let's move to the leadership. It's the buzzword. Everyone talks about it. What I really want to talk about when it comes to leadership is when we were in uni, I think in MBA, there was this big debate about whether a leader is born or they were made and all of that kind of like the egg and the chicken, which is one is first. But from a recruiter perspective, when we bring the word leadership, what are the characteristics that you kind of look at and say, oh, these are leadership traits on this person?
Yeah, so I think here so I think this is a great question, Razan, and definitely companies. What I've noticed, Razan, is that they have really different leadership traits. So they're different, but some of them are common, right? And I think it also changes as we go in time, but still hold the same aspects to it. So meaning, just to clarify this point, what I'm seeing now at the moment is that at some point in time, right, they wanted, especially post-COVID, a lot of companies were looking into leaders who have, accountability, who have responsibility, are very responsible, right, who have the growth mindset, right? So I think COVID was something that we never experienced, and a lot of people were not sure what's going to happen and so on. So people who were able to think beyond, right, the challenges, right, and look for opportunities and so on. These are leadership traits that are there. So a company like Amazon, for example, right, has a certain set of leadership that they qualify that these are the leadership qualities that they're looking for. And usually the interview process are behavioral questions and so on that relates to these leadership qualities. And they ask you specific questions to see if you have one of these qualities, right? So I think in my different roles that I've worked in the companies I've worked, leadership qualities has been I would say a little bit different. But I think in general, the leaders are people who are accountable, responsible, have the growth mindset, and now obviously have the resilience, right? So they're able to learn from their mistakes and grow, and also are able to manage teams. I think that's very, very important, right? And by managing teams, not just to manage them and manage their tasks and responsibilities, no, to manage them, to grow them, to groom the team that are working. If you're working with a team, to grow the team that are working under you, or if you're working with colleagues, also to be able to be a pivotal colleague as well, who is able to showcase his leadership, right? And most importantly, lead by example, right? So I think this is definitely a very important topic that I think will always remain important in the corporate world.
I love that. I had a mentor who used to tell me that leadership starts with being brave enough to lead and take the initiative to do things. So if you are not willing to be in the front and take the heat and take the credit, then that's an area where you need to talk to yourself about. So in interview, I am in an interview and I'm interviewing for a role that require a leadership trait. How can I showcase that? What would be the best ways to do that?
Fantastic. So I think I think the word that you just used earlier, Razan, just now actually is initiative, right? So talk about initiatives, right? Talk about things that you've done. So share examples that you of projects or if you're a student, for example, a presentation or anything that was critical, right, to your role, and share examples. Be very clear about it. And again, coming back to the star, using the star method, right? So explaining it in the right detail, showcasing that there is things, as you mentioned, Razan, right? You've led, right? And in leadership is very important to highlight the part that you've led, right? So, and sometimes I feel like people answer questions, but it just shows that they were part of a team that was managing this and so on. But it's very important to highlight and segregate what the team did and what you've done, right, to basically lead a project to be successful and so on, right? And I'm sure, Razan, always, mashallah, and anyone at any point in time would have some initiatives that they've led, they've done, and it was successful, right? And even if it at some point it wasn't successful, you can mention that example and mention and highlight what you've learned from it, what you've learned from that experience. That is a very, very, I think, brilliant way to showcase your leadership. And also importantly, I think in these examples, showcase your problem solving mindset, which is something which is important. And I think it adds always a lot of value to your answers that you're giving. And employers, recruiters, they really value this when they see that that person has a problem solving mindset and is someone who has the growth mindset, someone who thinks beyond the challenges, thinks outside the box. This is a common word that we use as well, right? So that's also very important. And just showing the right examples, just to be very specific here, sharing the right examples, explaining the example, and being very clear about it can showcase your leadership qualities in an interview.
Love that. So stay here. We usually look at leadership as leading people. It's only managers. But what about our peers? What about managing up? What about managing sideways? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think definitely, I think sometimes we've all been in positions, Razan, where we join, for example, our first job, and we don't have like a formal team, right, reporting to you, or you're managing directly. So you're probably working with colleagues, right? You're probably working with cross functions, with different colleagues in different functions, for example, right? So I think the fact that people can see that you are being proactive, right, I think showcase that this can showcase your leadership skills. And how does that happen? You can, for example, you're in a meeting and there is a task that needs to be done by the group. You can always volunteer for tasks really beyond your job description. And particularly, I want to share an example, right? So in many parts of my world that I've worked, Razan, is that I've worked in roles where I was supposed to set up the entire HR function, right? And sometimes some certain tasks really are not pure HR. To be even more clear, it's not actually HR roles or HR tasks, right? Part of the job description or the normal task that an HR person does. But taking that lead and volunteering to taking it and taking the accountability and so on really showcases, first of all, your proactiveness, and as well like your ability to take on something and delivering to it, right? So this is something that you can do. And being supportive for your colleagues, I think, is very important. And I always highlight this, which is an important leadership quality. Being someone that is easy to work with. You don't want to be and having, that, again, this comes back to your internal personal brand. You don't want to be known as the person who people don't want to work with you. The moment that they need to reach out to you, they'll be like, oh, yeah, Allah, I need to now reach out to this person. Saab, he's not, he doesn't help, he doesn't, But here, obviously, you need to be also, you need to be very careful about it to just balance it so that you don't also take too much on your plate that really affects your core job. So that's very important. Be able, I think also what I've seen, Razan, in my companies, that leaders somehow are always very helpful to new joiners. Yani, when they see new joiners, they're very passionate to help them, support them. And I've seen this with really like very senior people who really come and help new joiners who are students in internships and so on, right? So and immediately the people just feels like, okay, wow, this person has leadership qualities that I really want to be like at some point in my career, and they really just lead by example. And lastly, I think it's always important to speak up at the right time as well, right? So this shows that you're asking the right questions, you're asking insightful inquiries that can that can stimulate conversations, good conversations in whatever meeting and so on. And it's always important to be the person who also proposes solutions. So if you're in a meeting and they're discussing a very particular challenge, be the person who's really proposing solutions. Don't be the person who's always rejecting solutions. This is just my advice, right? And it makes it really easy for you to demonstrate your leadership.
I love this, Mohammed. And I think a lot of people forget the law of reciprocation. Like, if you want your peers, if you want people to help you and support you and talk positive about you,
Yes.
you have to start doing that.
Yes.
And I think another thing I see a lot is complaining. There's a lot of complaining. Like, I don't think anyone wants a complainer. So I'm not saying there's a perfect workplace. There's always problems. You will have problems with your manager, with your peers, whoever is it. It happens. But I think the mindset and how you approach these challenges and how you approach these situations, you take the personal lens out of the conversation, and you just kind of build that. How can you flip the script and make the situation work to your favor instead of against you? Mohammed, I don't know how 1 hour and a half has just gone like that, but I wanna we have like 4 minutes. So
if I don't mind, just adding to the
go
last
ahead.
point that you were talking about, the complaining part, right?
Go ahead.
So I think just in any corporate world, right, you don't want to be the person who seems to be the complainer, right? So and just remember that whenever you're in a corporate environment, right, you're probably part of a culture, and you really don't. Last thing you want to be is like to be looked at as the person who's creating this toxic culture, right? The complainer, the rotten egg, right, in a pile of of healthy environment, right? So staying away from that really just always helps you to be the person who's reachable. And leaders usually tend to have like open door policy. They're approachable, and these are the people who always, when they leave any organization or decide to retire and so on, are the people that people will always miss and remember, right? So so just always make sure that you're remembered for the good reasons and not the bad reasons.
Definitely. I think that's also part of your personal brand. When you leave that company to go to anyone, you want people to remember you for the good stuff that you have done, for the character, for being nice, approachable, whatever the thing. So Mohammed, we're wrapping up. We have 3 minutes to go. So I want to give you the time to just, what would be your final words to whoever with us today or will watch us later on? Anything that we didn't cover, your kind of like final words today.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it just felt like time flew. Honestly, I feel like we can we can spend a lot more discussing so many different topics. Subhanallah, yani Razan, there's a lot to say and a lot to share as well, given the circumstances as well. So I think I always want to emphasize just patience, right? I know at this moment things are tough, right, for a lot of people coming from Sudan and so on. So just I think be patient. We know that this is يعني قضاء وقدر. يعني في some people will find jobs right away. There's people who will find jobs, it takes time. There's people who find jobs through connections. There's people who find jobs through applications, and just always relate it back to yourself, right? So just know that whatever you're experiencing is for a reason, right? And inshallah better things will come, right? So I think I just want to emphasize this aspect. The second thing is understanding obviously the challenges, right? So I think very important for the people now who are entering the market in the UAE or GCC to work on on some of the qualifications, right? You want to be looked at as a highly skilled workforce, or candidate for whatever jobs that are there in the market, right? And I think ensuring that if you feel English is an area that you need to develop, work on that. If your resume and your LinkedIn profile is something that you need to work on, please work on that and put some time in it, because it's important to know that no one will do this for you but yourself, right? So and mashallah, we have a lot of talented people in many different industries, as we talked about, in healthcare, in education. We have a lot of brilliant people, alhamdulillah. Yani, there is a lot of experience that a lot of folks can share and bring here to this market. And just always know that the fact that you speak Arabic also can give you the edge, but also ensuring that English is also something that you're putting it to the level that can compare with people coming from different countries, right? So that it's not a weakness for you, and you're able to work on that. And inshallah, yani, we please, I always recommend also to be part of the next many sessions that Razan is doing, many different topics. I know that I'm so excited also to know from Razan that there's so many things happening, inshallah, and this is going to be a great year for a lot of us to learn and be able to be part of these conversations. And I just wish everyone a great day, and inshallah successful and blessed to 2025.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. I'm really happy that you have joined us today. I think you shared a lot of amazing stuff, very insightful. And guys, this is an HR director who's been there, who have been doing this for biggest companies in the Middle East. So when he says it, you need to kind of listen to it. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for everyone who joined us today. We have more to come. Mohammed has actually recommended amazing people that we're going to also host them in these sessions. And these sessions are like just open dialogue, and we want to hear from people who are doing it or they succeeded. So keep coming. Follow the page. We share a lot of amazing opportunities across the world, remote, non-remote. We also share tips on tools that you can use, AI tools, on resumes, on LinkedIn. We share books that could actually help you grow yourself and within the company. And if you want to have a dialogue and conversation, join our monthly mentorship. We are doing all of this just to help people and to make sure that Sudanese talents are actually all over the world showing their real value. So thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your rest of Friday and enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.